Be sure to subscribe for more content.
What is up, ladies and gents? Welcome to the BigBC Finance Channel, and I hope you're having a very lovely day today. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about Terra Classic USD, or USTC for short, what has happened to its price recently and where I predict the price to go to in the near future, as well as some key price levels and some trades I'm looking to make. So be sure to stay tuned for all of that. And of course, if you appreciate the daily analysis on the channel, then be sure to hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so already. And of course, quick message to everyone watching, I do appreciate you, so thank you so much. Without further ado, let's get into USTC. So annotations are already on the screen because I really do want to dive into this one. And of course, we're kind of in this area now, which is a little bit awkward here at the moment. There does seem to be some good developments happening with the price, but at the moment, what we kind of see is the price had dropped below these two kind of levels. And if I zoom out here, you can see that these levels were pretty important here on USTC. So one of my last videos that I made was about this triangle formation that we saw on USTC. We did break out to the upside as we were expecting, because this is such a strong triangle, and it was a strong triangle because it formed over 2 weeks. So that's one reason. So if a triangle forms over an hour or 2 hours, the strength of the triangle is not going to be strong as the strength of a triangle that's formed over a much longer time frame. So that was one reason. And the second reason was that there were so many tests of the support and resistance. There had been at least 6 times on each side where the resistance and support had been tested, and therefore the significance of the breakout of the triangle much more than a short forming triangle with just a few tests of support and resistance. So indeed, after this triangle form, we did see this breakout of 24% here on US. And of course, we did expect the price from this peak to come straight back down as well. And that is exactly what it did. I did say it was going to come back down because, all the pumps previously here on USTC have gone up very, very sharply and have managed to come down as well. So mid-October was a very good example of where we saw the price pump to 3x here on USTC. But, people take their profits, and we saw the price come back down and retrace about 80% of the original pump. And so by that virtue, I said we'd see something very similar here as well. And that's exactly what we did. We basically retraced. We held this support for a little while longer. We can see there's additional few tests before finally losing this support. And what's absolutely beautiful about USTC is the way it respects these support and resistance lines. Look at the price action as it uses this previous resistance from the triangle as the support whilst coming down, and it uses this previous support as a resistance just one more time as it's coming down. So we see this pump here touched the resistance and came back down. And of course, that was the last pump that we saw before we saw the price fall below this support line that we had. And now we're starting to come back up. So where do I see the price going from now? Well, basically at the moment, we've kind of lost the two main lines that I was looking for. So, just off the bat, that's kind of bearish in the sense that we've come down below this. We have come up and we're just testing it now. So if we can climb above this support once again, then of course it's not completely over yet, because if we're still bound by the support, we still could head down like this. What I'm really looking for here on USTC, in order to remain somewhat bullish on this crypto, is to remain above a resistance that looks like this. Of course, we've had our low down here on the 18th of October. And if we join this low on the 2nd of November here, then we still got a somewhat bullish trend line going in the upwards direction. So, if the price can keep to this level, let's say, we do get above the support and we start coming down, but then we respect this level and we start doing something like this, then I'm bullish on USTC and of course, if that were the case, then I would be looking to place a position here on UST for a longer time frame, because of course, this is a slight bullish trend line, and there wouldn't be much capital appreciation in the short term. So when I say short term, in the coming hours and days, this is a long-term play if we just follow this bullish trend line. Of course, by the same virtue as before, we can definitely see another pump at some point as well. So if I'm confident that we're following a bullish trend, such as this one in the darker purple, as opposed to following a trend that's going in this downhill direction, such as this line here. So I'm going to change that color to, let's give it a dark blue color. So if we're following this purple trend in the bullish direction instead of this blue trend in the bearish direction, then that's when I would put a position in USTC. And of course, I'll be looking for other bullish signs in order to confirm that. So if we do something like this, where we cannot flip this resistance, the blue line here, and we lose the support on the purple line, and we do something like this, then that to me is extremely bearish, because quite honestly, I do not see another support until we get down to this 2.8 cents region here on USTC. If we cannot hold this purple support that we have going here, so of course we could see the price do something like this over the coming days and weeks, where it just gradually makes its way down to there. Of course, again, if we look in history, that is what has kind of happened after every single pump, such as this one here. We've just seen the price gradually taper off down and down and down until another pump came by. So this is what would happen in my case, in my opinion, if we cannot hold this purple line here. But if we can, then that is good. And if we do flip this blue line here, then my real question becomes, can we pump all the way to this light purple line that we have? Of course, it would be great to flip this again and go in this more bullish direction, because this is the direction that we had here on USTC since the 19th of October. So we've had this trend now for 2 weeks. We've broken down below. But of course, I'm not ruling out the fact that we could potentially get up here. So if we are able to break through this blue line here, we have a lot of momentum and an increase in volume, then this here would be my price target at 4 cents there. Of course, if we don't see that volume but we're able to follow this, then this is still bullish, but I will not be trading it. I will just put a position in USTC and wait for a few days or a few weeks, or whenever there's a pump that looks like this, for example, to take the profits. So those are some of my initial observations. Of course, I'm going to show you the indicators as well and just discuss what they're telling us. So at the moment, the RSI on the 1 hour time frame is showing us an oversold signal. It's not actually done that since this bottom down here as well. So the last oversold signal on the RSI, so an oversold signal being below this dashed line here at 30, was actually on the 19th of October. So over 2 weeks ago since we last saw this oversold signal. And if you bought back then, that would have been a nice trade for you. Of course, you could have ridden the price from 3.3 cents up to a high here of 4.7-ish. So that's quite bullish, but they don't always work, because if you see this last one before the one I just mentioned, you see that we got an oversold signal as we were coming down on the on USTC. Then if you had bought there, you'd have continued to ride the price down further and further. So not all of these oversold signals on the RSI work, but you know, it's not a bad sign when something is oversold. It means particularly they come up with the best buying opportunities. So that's definitely a potentially good sign there. Of course, another good sign that I could potentially be seeing is this kind of divergence that I'm seeing. So if we connect the lows here on the USTC, in fact, let me give this a different color before things start to get very confusing. If I put this on a yellow, for example, you can see that we've connected the lows on the USTC price, and this trend line connecting the lows is going in a downwards direction. But if we have a look on the RSI and the MACD, we can see that if we draw the same trend line connecting the lows of the RSI and the MACD, then things are going in a different direction. Of course, the trend line on the RSI is going in a very slightly bearish direction. It's slightly pointing downwards, but the one on the MACD is pointing in an upwards direction. Now, the one that's on the price is clearly going down, but the fact that these two are pointing in a more bullish direction points to us, potentially signals to us that we could be going in a more bullish direction in the near future. Of course, this is not a straight up signal. This is not a straight up buy signal, but this could be an indication that this bearish trend is starting to run out of steam. We could start seeing something moving in a more bullish direction in the near future. And of course, this kind of nicely coincides with this purple line that we've got here that's going in a slow bullish direction. And we can see this divergence play out to see the price do something like this, where it follows a more upwards trend instead of this downtrend that we've been in for the last week or so on the MACD. So this is something I'm looking out for as well. Of course, the RSI and the MACD divergences there point to a change of trend sometime in the future. So that's definitely a nice bullish sign. And of course, finally, macroeconomic events I want to talk about as well, because at the moment the whole crypto market is red in anticipation of the interest rate hikes. Now, the interest rate hikes is what's been on everyone's mind today, and obviously it's basically going to affect every single crypto, of course. And of course, we want to be watching what happens with this interest rate decision, because, you know, the consensus is 75 basis points. So they want to raise the interest rate by 75 basis points. And that's what everyone seemed to have factored in. In fact, most investors right now think that we're going to get this same 75 rate hike. So if that does happen, then the crypto markets as a whole should generally be short-term bearish. Of course, we could see pumps. We would expect to see a lot of volatility. So on Bitcoin, for example, and on USTC, but I'm on Bitcoin now. Basically, we'll see a lot of volatility where we see large candles and large price movements in a short amount of time. So what we saw last time, there was an interest rate decision here, is this price just going absolutely crazy. You could see it in real time. You know, the volatility was so much more than it is right now. And of course, if we get a 75 basis point hike, then we could see a pump, but generally over the next few days and weeks, we should see the price diminish here on Bitcoin to the 19,000s. And of course, other altcoins will follow, such as USTC. I'm not saying it'll follow the exact same price pattern, price action as Bitcoin, but we should see a bearish bias here on the price in USTC. And by the same virtue, if we see a lower rate hike of, say, 50 basis points instead of the 75 basis points, it shows us that the Fed is easing their rate hikes and giving the economy the room to breathe for a little while. And of course, longer term, it's still kind of bearish, but in the short term, and when I say short term, over the coming days and weeks, that will then definitely be bullish here in crypto and in stocks. So we should see Bitcoin break out of that same triangle that I drew here. We should see the price get into the 21,000s, and there should be a bullish bias here on USTC. So that will definitely impact the price, as a rate hike of 75 should bring down the price, and a rate hike of 50 should, at least in the short term, bring up the price here on USTC. So excited to see what happens there. I'll be streaming that live, so if you wanted to catch that, it will be on this channel at 6 p.m. UTC. But all in all, that's pretty much what I'm looking at here at USTC. We've got a long way to go to flip this support once again, but we can definitely do it, particularly if we get a favorable interest rate decision coming in the few hours from making this video. If we get a favorable interest rate decision, and of course, if we are able to flip this blue resistance here, but not able to get to this support in light purple, then it would be nice to see the price follow this bullish kind of trend going upwards. And if so, I will be placing a nice position here on USTC in order to capitalize on another pump when it rises. But if we cannot keep this dark purple line as our support, then I do think there's not much stopping us as we head down towards this blue line here at around 2.9 cents on USTC. So this is what I'm looking for now. That's a summary of everything. Hopefully this video was helpful for you, and let me know in the comments if you are holding any USTC or not. Otherwise, that's all I have to say. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.